18th of November. It is a Saturday morning. I've had a very rough week and I didn't sleep for 3 nights. And last night I said to my wife, give me a pill. I'm a guy that don't take pain pills and things like that. But I just couldn't continue. And so by 10 o'clock last night I was zonked out. And I wake up this morning and my Mr. X, those that follow my channel will know about him, sent me a video of a European guy. And I listened to it and I was absolutely stunned. First of all, it was weird to me that he sent that video to me. But I'm not a guy that believes in chance. I believe that everything that happens for a reason, and it is our responsibility to make very sure that we pay attention to these things. When I meet a person for the first time, the first thing that goes through my mind is, why did this happen? Why was this person sent into my life? And it is my responsibility to explore that and make sure that I do not miss the message that that person is supposed to deliver to me. Now, me and my Mr. X, we are on opposite sides of the ideology divide. And right in the beginning, when we started communicating, I said to him, look, you must understand and accept, we are on different sides. Now, for this relationship to have any value to any one of us, we have to stick to one basic rule, and that is that we never allow disrespect to come onto the table. We must at all times respect one another. Yes, we differ, but we must respect one another for that differences and listen to what the other guy is saying. And we've had some really brutal interactions, and we try to stick to that respect rule. Sometimes we slip a bit. But when I listened to this video, I tried to figure out, why the hell did he send it to me? And I came to the conclusion that he is questioning himself now. And of course, he is now going to look for some confirmation. Either confirmation that he has been wrong or that he has been right. But he needs confirmation. And during the discussion, I talked a lot about things and the content of that video, and then he asked me, okay, so if Europe and Africa gets into a war, on whose side will the Boere be? And I said to him, look, as things stand now, I will defend myself and my family because you blacks decided that it was a good plan to kill me. And that's all I said. And there was a lot of things after that and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, we really need to stop being confrontational all the time. We need to bring respect into our discussions and then defend your position with facts, not with feelings, because feelings is not trustworthy. Look at what this guy says about resources. We always hear, and the narrative in the media is that the whites are stealing the resources of Africa. Listen to what this guy is saying. And there's a lot of truth in what he is saying.
If you've been on TikTok for a while, you must have heard about a ton of Africans telling you that Europeans stole Africa's resources. Now, there's a lot to say about that. First and foremost, most of these resources are still in Africa. and they're not being stolen by Europeans. They're actually being sold to Europeans by the African state leadership. Your own elites are robbing you. It's not us doing it. Not anymore.
There it is. The African resources are being stolen by African leaders. That is the truth. And then he goes on and he asks, why must someone from Europe come and dig wells and drill boreholes in Kenya? Why does the Kenyan government not do it? By implication, we know why, because the leadership steals the money for themselves and they leave their people to suffer. And the Europeans usually jump in out of fucking humanity and drill the wells. And it is not those wells that the Europeans drill. Not all the blacks appreciate that. They fucking see it as their right, because that is one of the big things on their table. Entitlement. Entitlement. And when that fucks up, they blame the whites.
The real issue, of course, is why aren't Africans using their own resources to do things? Why does Mr. Beast have to go to Kenya to build water wells? Why didn't the Kenyan government do it themselves? I suppose the Kenyan government could have done it themselves. They just chose not to do it.
And then he talks about electricity. And listen carefully to what he is saying. And he says, Nigeria has got 220 million people. Hungary has got 10 million people. Yet Nigeria only produced 10% of the electricity that Hungary produces. Now ask yourself, how the fuck is that possible? Easy. Nigeria is a rich country and it's got oil and gas and all that. Where is all the money going for that natural resources? Into the top elite's pockets. Fuck the people living in the country.
Nigeria is now a country of almost 220 million people, the largest country in Africa. But they only produce about 10% of the electricity that a small country like Hungary. Hungary only has 10 million people, but they produce 10 times as much electricity as Nigeria does.
And then he talks about Wakanda. And he asks a very valid question. He says, it's good to dream about Wakanda, but why don't you build your Wakanda? Do you expect whites to come and build your Wakanda? Very valid question.
I mean, I know you want to have your Wakanda, right? But do you expect white people to give it to you? No, you're supposed to build it yourself.
And then he gets to a point where he talks about the future. And he makes a lot of statements about how Africa should and could develop. But he says, in that development lies the danger of a future war between Europe and Africa.
Having said all this, it is of course obvious that we Europeans in the north need to prepare for a possible, potential African rise in terms of technology and therefore also in terms of military capacity. And that means we in Europe need to already start looking ahead and thinking ahead about how we are going to win the war against Africa, because there will be a future war between Europe and Africa.
Now you've listened to that, and it is a reality. And as I said, my Mr. X asked me on whose side will the Boere fight. And I said to him, at this point, as it is today, I will defend myself and my family, because the blacks decided it's a good plan to kill me. And he was not very happy with that answer and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, we are sitting here in South Africa, that the South African black elite has been stealing like hell and has bankrupted the country, where the broad-based population has lost all the way. And my Mr. X has swung from supporting the ANC to supporting the EFF, and he gives me a video clip of Malema where Malema makes some statements. And I say to him, you must just understand one thing. Malema is controlled by the same Triple X gang that controls the ANC. You have to be aware of that. Whatever Malema says, there is a reason behind it, and that reason is not to your benefit. That reason is to execute a Triple X plan. And then he asked me about AfriForum, and he said, yeah, AfriForum does this. And I said to him, look, you must understand, for me, it was a murderous shock to realize a few months ago that AfriForum is actually also in the clause of Triple X. The reality is, we, my tribe, the Boere, we're on our own. And I said to him, you must go and look back in history. The British killed 100,000 Afrikaners in South Africa. And the British made a war against the Zulus. And it was the Boere that helped the Zulus to give the Zulus the power to fuck the British up. So you must understand, the British hate the Boere and the Zulus. But you must also understand that you guys need to be aware of the fact that you are stoking fires for a civil war, and in your minds you imagine it's going to be 65 million blacks against 4 million whites. You're making a big fucking mistake. In your own communities, there are a hell of a lot of blacks that are not happy with what you are doing. And then I said to him, look at what happened recently. The Swazi king, Zuma, and Lesotho filed massive land claims. Why did they do that? Because they know, the history is there. They know which land is actually Boere land. Because between those three nations, there were agreements for that land. And it is clear to them now that the ANC is planning to steal that land. So now they want it back. So on this Saturday morning, all I'm going to say, be very careful. We are in a dangerous time in South Africa. But we need to be alert. There are black people that are beginning to see what the fuck is going on. And it is important for us to stick to the truth and don't allow emotions to rule the roost. Because a major portion of the black, let's call it militancy, is driven by emotion. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.